Do you think 2 or 3 coffees?
As many as safely or unsafely suggested.
Taster's choice, dude. You know something like this is gonna taste average. We'll be hunting in moments, really. Alright, and just like that, we're hunting. Taster's choice. Absolutely average. Alright everybody, we are in Ohio. I met up with Keith last night and we're now on some Ohio public land. So Keith and I are going to go into this area. Got a little bit of good wind today. It's going to help cover us on the way in. So we're just going to basically stage our way back and kind of hunt some of this open ground stuff. We're going to start on the edge of it and just work our way in. You know, we've been in some of these areas before, so we know that there's some good spots back in there, but we don't want to dive right in. Sometimes in areas that we've hunted before, we kind of get this preconceived idea of what is supposed to happen back in there, and we overthink it. There's a deer right there. Oh man, we might get a chance at him here, Keith, right there! But anyway, we're just gonna, instead of going right for the best spots, we're gonna kind of hunt our way in and just read the sign and play it that way. You know, like I said, sometimes you just get in your head, like in places that you've hunted before, that you know exactly where the best spot is, and you know, things change year to year. We got enough time. We got a few days before the Public Land Challenge. This is the first time I've held a bow in Ohio for quite a few years, so pretty excited about it, and excited to tackle this piece back in here. I think there should be a lot of deer. You know, this time of the year, I don't think there's a lot of hunting pressure, so that's the hope, and maybe we'll find a buck this morning. It'll be fun either way. This is our turn here, huh?
Yeah.
That's it.
Not perfect.
And as they say, let's hunt. Don't do that, folks. You know what that means. That'd have been stupid. Could you imagine if we'd have got back there and I'd just been like, dude, I forgot.
And I'm gonna lay down.
Oh, shoot. I guess it's time to get serious.
Zach! I am. I got him.
I do think that we could potentially kill a buck right on that scrape tonight. I honestly do. Temperature changing as much as it is. You get a bug pattern there, but the other thing is, I think we should scout the whole thing to know.
That might just be the outskirts.
Yeah, that might be one of 40 scrapes.
Probably be rolling your bad eyes.
Keith and I made it up here. You can see quite a bit from here, and been seeing some deer. I think we've seen 4 does, 3 small bucks, 2 small bucks that way, and then a small buck that way. We can see a massive scrape over there, and you know, one of the things that we were wondering about, just because the deer are on acorns so much, really in a lot of places in the country right now, we figured that there's a decent chance that these deer are going into the hardwoods, coming out of this grassy stuff and going back into the woods to bed. scraping, kind of watching those bucks told us that that might be the case. But then again, we're seeing deer still out in the open stuff. So we're just gonna scout around and kind of glass this morning. Hopefully start to put the pieces of the puzzle out here together without blowing it up too much, because we can kind of stage hunt back in here. And you know, if it's anything like past years, there's gonna be some big bucks back here. So we're hunting. It's fun. Beautiful, beautiful day. A little warm, but beautiful. Look down and there's a guy walking down here. He's going fishing. He looks like he's having an absolute blast. When I first looked at him, he looked like he was like smiling as he was approaching that pond. The guy scared the absolute crap out of me though. I was like, it's a booner coming right at us. So over there on that ridge, there's a big patch of oak trees that we're gonna go try to scout out a little bit. We kind of have a theory that there might be deer up in that stuff. So basically we're going in to check and see if there's acorns in these oaks and if there's deer sign in there. If there is, that's gonna play a part in how we approach all this. And if not, then we can kind of write that off and assume they're spending more of their time feeding up in this open country. And I think right now we're feeling like it's probably 50-50, but we go scout it out, just get a feel for what these oaks are doing. We just got up here. It seems like these deer are definitely up here. There's a lot more trails coming up to this little ridge than I thought, but first oak we came across, it's got acorns and there's a big bed under it. I'm assuming that's a buck's bed. You can tell the deer have been in here because finding caps, not a lot of acorns. Then like right here too, you can see where they've been sticking their feet here, standing around feeding. There's kind of deep imprints. You can see it right here. I think this stuff's good. I think that we should probably hunt it at some point. I think we need to leave it alone right now. There's fresh tracks and food in here. We're going into the area, I think this morning. We're going to try to work our way up into that patch of oaks that we found yesterday. We can tell there's a bunch of deer feeding in there. We're assuming they're bedding probably pretty close back in there. We did start to find some deer beds. Our main goal is just to get in that zone, kind of still hunt around, hope to catch deer up on their feet feeding on those acorns, because yesterday when it was windy, it was raining a bunch of fresh acorns on the ground. The wind that was knocking all those acorns down was pushing a cold front in. So right now it's 46 degrees. And I thought it was supposed to be colder than that, I thought.
Yeah, it definitely was.
So it didn't get quite as cold as it was anticipated to, but hoping deer move around and just kind of being in that bedding area with them is beneficial to us. Talk about reading fresh sign all the time, and like this is an example of kind of harder to see fresh sign, and what we're kind of gaining from this information is that deer are feeding out here. You can see there's these like tamped down spots where the deer's hooves have been, and you can kind of tell that the dew has been disrupted off of the grass, and right here's a fresh bed. Like again, if you're finding beds in spots like that, don't take them too seriously because they're probably used at night. Our assumption is that the deer were feeding out here in the dark, and they're now up in those oaks getting ready to bed, and they're using that acorn source as like a staging area. We're gonna try to slip up in there and kind of get still hunting or stopped in a spot that we think makes a lot of sense, just depending on what the sign says once we're up there. You can hear blue jays back there. You can hear acorns dropping. Son, I'm getting fired up.
Pretty decent sized bed.
That's a decent bed. I mean, there's tracks everywhere in here, dude. Like, look at this little tamped spot. There's another bed right there.
Come on in.
We've just been scouting around this morning, trying to get deeper in here a little bit, I guess. And, you know, there's a lot of sign up in the oaks. It seems like we're still behind the deer, almost like they're moving down this ridge more than we anticipated. At first, we kind of both thought that they were going to be bedded up there, but we never bumped a deer. I just wonder now if they're not bedded up above this creek on one of these finger ridges. I mean, it makes total sense. We're kind of scouting our way back, and there's a big scrape. There's another scrape back there, and 2 rubs that are high enough, I would say, on the tree that make you feel like it's a decent buck. We're up here on this ridge further down. We came another 200 yards probably. And there's all these big oaks right here that are dropping acorns. There's a bunch of fresh rubs in here. Assuming, you know, they're bedded out at the end of that ridge. We probably got, 300 yards to the end. There's rubs coming up both sides, but right here it's really open. Seems like a really good spot for deer to kind of be traveling up through here. People aren't really coming down here very often. I think you'd get a big buck walking right down the middle of this thing. What do you think? Back out of here. Worth the setup tonight, do you think?
I would love to see this meet.
Okay. Alright, so here's the setup real quick. We've kind of got these horizontal logs here. That's our horizontal cover. Behind us we got trees sticking up, so you know, from a distance you can't really see us in here. Also, we've got shadow right in this spot, and you can see there's a lot of sun otherwise. We think the deer, there's this access path right on the top of the ridge. Wind's coming this way. There's kind of a bench that goes out that way. I think that's where the majority of the deer are probably bedded. You know, if a deer comes this way, I think the big thing is it's just going to be kind of like sitting low. If they're coming through there, I'll probably just keep watching them and let them get behind this big tree. Draw behind there. My first shot's probably right. Yeah. The best shot's right there. For me.
Mm-hmm. You broke this little stump sprout off.
This thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, and squeak one through there.
Yeah. Gives you your shot right past that oak.
Yeah, that'd be good. But if he starts to go low, I'm just gonna go like this. We're gonna have to be able to do that.
Be able to do this?
I think so. As long as you can see, because I'm gonna be here. He's coming through there.
I've got all your shooting range there pretty much.
Yeah. I think it's going to be somewhat of a tough one to pull off, but there's really no reason that we should mess it up, especially with like a lone buck or something. Like, That's kind of what I'm anticipating happening, is like deer filtering through and then a lone buck coming through at the end, and us having a little bit more flexibility because it's just one deer. Problem's gonna be is if like 6 deer feeding right here, we're gonna have a hard time. All right, it's on. Let's set. Somebody on the comments the other day said, I liked your videos until face paint. It's like, okay, well, darn it. I wear it because I think it helps break you up. I can't shoot with the face mask because I like to put anchor point. That's my reasoning behind face paint. Camo, anchor point. Silent boss. Just heard deer come in below us. But like, we heard them coming in and then all of a sudden we heard running. They never blew this time and the wind isn't blowing down there anymore. It's just falling straight down. Like we drop milkweed, it goes straight to the ground. Like we just gotta be on our toes. Hope for the best at this point. 30 minutes left. Maybe that deer got us, I don't know. Bad luck if that's the case. Not bad luck, just we should have went down there, I think. Let's just reset. Alright, we had some more deer come in here right at the last bit of light. I think the big takeaways today are just, if you find that fresh sign, we probably should have went a little bit further. Got a little bit different type of setup, but maybe just got a little bit tighter to the buck bedding. I don't think we'll probably come back here tomorrow. I think we'll try to get eyes on some different stuff. There's definitely deer coming into these oaks because there's another one walking up now, so we'll have to eventually plan our route out of here. Successful in the fact that we definitely found the deer here.
Alright guys, I know this video was not super action-packed, but Keith and I learned a lot from it, so we just wanted to take a minute and kind of show you what we would do differently the next time. Throughout the morning we were still hunting and we were following sign towards the end of the ridge. That led us to believe that the deer were bedded on a bench just below the high point at the end of the ridge. All the sign was kind of crossing right on the top. There were some oak trees there like we talked about that were dropping acorns, and we could tell they were feeding there, but we thought the deer would be bedded there with a north wind, and we were just barely threading the needle, but the problem was there were trails that were below us, and Keith and I had talked about potentially setting up a little bit lower. I think ultimately we got a little greedy and we tried to shoot too many trail intersections where we should have just set up where we thought the deer would be with that wind and tried to shoot a trail that the deer were using from the bedding area up to that top. Instead, we were trying to sit on top and cover a whole bunch of different trails where we should have just committed to where we thought the deer were going to be bedded based off the wind. We thought we'd be able to thread the needle, but ultimately that deer that came down below us smelled our thermals dropping. When the sun started to set, everything cooled on that hillside and the thermals started to pull down, and that buck inevitably got us. I'm sure our scent was just hanging down there where he was kind of coming from, and that's probably why he was coming that direction. So I think in the future, in a setup like that, we would just try to drop a little bit lower, commit to one side of the ridge or the other, and just be good with that. But we got too greedy and it didn't really work out. So fast forward now, public land challenge, we learned from this hunt specifically, used thermals a lot during that, ended up shooting a buck there. But Ben and Keith have been hunting in Ohio and they've been really getting into them. So we're gonna keep things rolling with this exciting hunt with Ben and Keith, and then I'm gonna be here in Ohio for the next probably a week or 10 days or so, be hunting down here and trying to figure things out in a new area. I'm excited because I've never bow hunted in this area. Obviously these guys have got me excited from the action that they've been having. We're having a good time with it. Catch you on the next one.
Right.